Hey, Derrick, guess what?
Hit me with it.
We just got a promotion with Audible.
Audible, fantastic. I love Audible.
Do you know what the cool thing about this deal is?
What's that?
If our listeners go to audibletrial.com/supercinemapod, they get a free trial with Audible. And do you know what they get with that?
What do they get with that? Tell me.
They get one free audiobook of their choice, and they get 2 free Audible originals, which is special content that Audible makes available free for all its subscribers.
Are you kidding me? That deal is so good, I may go myself and sign them.
Do you think they let you keep the books after you're done?
No, you're not going to tell me they let you keep the books after you're done.
Yes. In fact, you can go sign up for a trial, and you can cancel before the trial ends, and you get to keep the books you've already downloaded.
Well, I don't see how you can beat that with a stick.
Exactly, yeah. And you can, lots of great books, especially for fans of the show. You can listen to Super Gods by Grant Morrison, which is all about like how the superhero comics have changed and evolved over time. Or you can check out Marvel Comics, The Untold Story.
Which is a terrific book. I have that both in hardcover, and I listen to that on Audible myself in my car while traveling back and forth.
And there's also another similar book that's called Slugfest, which is about like the wars between Marvel and DC Comics.
Oh, okay.
So that's another one you got to check out too. So yeah, head on over to audibletrial.com/supercinemapod and start your free trial right now. You get 1 free audiobook and 2 free Audible originals, and you can keep them even if you cancel before it's over.
Anyone you want. All right?
Okay.
I want you to sign your name on that card. You don't need to hide it from me. We all should know which one is yours.
Okay.
Okay. Shuffle your card into the deck. Get it lost in there. Perfect. And there's a lot of things in our lives that can trap us. It could be a person, a problem. There's so many things that can wall us in. Mm-hmm. But these barriers only exist if we let them. You know, we can do whatever we want if we just believe we're able to. There's a card in here with your name on it, right?
Uh-huh.
Let's say 51 of these cards are too scared to trust themselves, too afraid to believe that they can do whatever they want. You know, your card knows there's no wall, no limit, no barrier.
Okay.
Is that your card?
No, it's a guy.
No.
That's insane.
Welcome to the Superhero Cinephiles podcast. I am half of your host, Perry Constantine.
And as always, I am the other half, Derrick Ferguson. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing today?
I am doing fine. Thank you very much. Nice weather here in Brooklyn, considering it's winter, but you know, we had a little bit of snow, but it didn't stick. So I'm a happy camper. As long as it doesn't snow, I'm fine.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been catching up on some comics lately, and one of the things I read that I bought on one of these holiday sales that Comixology had last month was Superman Smashes the Klan.
Oh, okay.
So because it's based on the old radio serial that Adventures of Superman did, because during that time there was a resurgence of the Ku Klux Klan, and they were getting some positive press coverage, and a bunch of the people involved in the show, they're like, we got to do something about this. So they used, they had a reporter who had done extensive research on the Klan. They used his information as a background. They wrote, I think it was a 16-part series they did. Mm-hmm. And all about Superman going at, and they couldn't use the actual name Ku Klux Klan because it was actually incorporated, because they would have gotten sued for copyright violations or whatever, or trademark infringement. So they called it the Klan of the Fiery Cross instead.
Mm-hmm.
And
it was the same thing in Marvel Comics when they did a thing where the Black Panther, fought the Klan, but they couldn't use the name. They couldn't actually call it the Klan. They called it something else.
Yeah. So that was interesting because I was reading the story and I was wondering, why don't they just call it the Ku Klux Klan? Because everybody knows what it is. And I couldn't understand why. And then after I finished reading the book, I went and I read, I'm like, oh, that's why they couldn't do it. Okay. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so it was And so it was this, and it basically like, it's funny because this children's radio show basically stopped the Klan from when it was regaining prominence, like right at the heart in the 1950s.
People forget, and when I tell them this, I say, well, listen, if you go to YouTube and use it for something else than looking up porn, you will see that the Klan had actual parades in New York. My God, they had a rally in Madison Square Garden.
Right, yeah.
One time, and they were holding parades in Washington, D.C. There are pictures and, newsreels of the Klan holding marches in Washington, D.C. You see the Capitol in the background.
Yeah.
So, So, I mean, at one time, the Klan was quite the formidable force in the United States. Still is.
Yeah.
I mean, they still are.
Yeah. But, that was one thing that, and so then, so this writer, Gene Luen Young, I think his name is. So he, with all this stuff, with all this resurgent stuff, he decided, he went to DC and, he said like, I want to do this. I want to do this as the story and adapt it to a graphic novel. So it's really cool. First off, it's a children's story. So it is written, but it's very well done. Like it's the focus is on this Chinese family that moves out of Chinatown and into like a white neighborhood in Metropolis, and the Klan comes after them. And in the original serial, it was mostly focused on the son of the family. Like he was like the central character. But in this one, it adds, because I think in the original serial, he had a sister in the original serial, but she wasn't really named. She was just part of the family. But this series, it puts the focus on his sister, and she's like the central character of it. But it's cool because they set it back in the 1930s. So, and they do a nice little thing where they show Superman at the time, because people don't remember, but in the Golden Age, in the early comics, Superman didn't have the powers that he has now.
No.
And so it showed him, and they work in how his powers change and how he becomes more powerful in that story. And it's really well done. The artwork is phenomenal. It's like this very it's this very like animated-esque style. And it's kind of like this fusion between the Bruce Timm type stuff and like a more of an anime influence. And it's this nice little fusion the artist did. And it's really clean artwork. It's really well written, and it was just a really impressive story. And I just finished reading that last night. And so if anyone's interested, I definitely recommend checking it out. So because it was a great read.
Yeah, Comixology, you know what? They got enough of my money. Oh my God. I hate to tell you how many graphic novels I have on my Kindle I haven't read yet. But,
oh God, yeah.
Yeah, but I got it because, as we have said before, we were talking about it, the prices that they have, you almost feel guilty for not buying it because you say, well, damn, where else am I going to get it this cheap?
Yeah. So. Yeah, I've been holding back on pulling the trigger on the Hellblazer collection because it's like 20 books. And and the lowest they get is like $6 on DC. So that's like, like $120. I'm just like, I'm gonna hold off. Same with the Suicide Squad, the Ostrander stuff. Like when I see those come up from time to time, I'm always like, should I get them now? Because they always seem to coincide with sales of other stuff that I want to get too.
Exactly. That's how they get you.
Yeah,
that's exactly how they get you.
But also I saw the third episode of WandaVision last week.
How'd you like it?
Oh, I loved it. I like it's just, and it's really cool. Like each episode, they're ratcheting up the tension and making it more surreal in each one. Like it's bringing this, because it was like, in the first episode, it was just that little bit at the end with the boss choking.
Yeah.
And then the next episode, right, they had the beekeeper, they had the Jimmy Woo's voice coming through the radio, the splash of red when she started bleeding in the chopper, and the toy helicopter and all that. And then the third episode, they took it even further.
Yeah. I really like the scene where they had the two net where it was Agatha or
Agnes,
yeah, Agnes, and she's talking to the black guy and she's telling him, "Listen, pull it together."
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Oh shit!"
And that was another, like when Vision comes out and he sees him there, and the guy's cutting through the wall.
Yeah,
and he looks up, and Vision's like, "Are you okay?" He's like, "Yeah," and he's still talking to him while he's still cutting through the wall.
Yeah, cutting through the wall. Like I do this every day. It's and of course the ending where I mean, the chick just gets flung outside.
Yeah.
And, and then you're saying, okay, now what's this all about?
Yeah.
And
because my thought was like, I thought she was there to spy on them or something, or she was there to monitor something. But then the authorities come on her at the end. So I was like, well, what's going on here now? This is interesting.
And wait a minute. And how about when she, says, oh yeah, well, your brother got killed,
Yeah.
And Wanda looks at her like, she gives her that.
Right, yeah, because she's talking about, she's like, I liked how they worked Pietro into that, because he hasn't been mentioned since Age of Ultron,
which is such a shame.
Yeah. So I really like, and so we watched it, my wife and I, and after that she wanted to go on and she's like, well, I want to watch it. Let's watch a Marvel movie. I'm like, okay, well, let's watch Age of Ultron since we just saw this episode. So we watched Age of Ultron.
Matter of fact, that's what I did. I watched Age of Ultron. It's you know what? It's really so well. And I really don't understand the complaint. I'm hearing a lot of complaints.
Oh yeah.
And I'm saying I really don't understand what people are complaining about, because it's not like you didn't know. They didn't tell you what you were getting into. They didn't.
Yeah.
It's not like Marvel did not tell you what this was going to be about.
Yeah.
They did enough publicity to let you know you were not going to get a punchy run action series. It wasn't going to be that type of series. Right. And for me personally, I'm glad it's not.
Yeah.
Every Marvel series that they're doing should be its own separate thing, according to according to the characters that are involved.
Yeah. So, I remember when they first announced it and they said they were going to call it WandaVision. I remember thinking like, well, why don't they just call it Vision and Scarlet Witch? And now, seeing what they're doing, I'm like, oh, well, now I understand why they did it this way.
Yeah. Listen, I'm enjoying it. I really don't know what people expected out of it or what they wanted or what they thought. But again, people want to see the TV or movie that they've got in their head. They don't want to see the one that people are actually making, because they've already got in their head how the movie or TV show, well, this is how it should be in my head. And that's what I want to see,
So yeah, I'm loving it. And I get annoyed at the end of every episode because I'm like, damn it, now I got to wait a week.
I know, right? But it's kind of fun.
It is kind of fun, yeah.
It is kind of fun to say, oh shit, I can't wait till next week. I haven't had that anticipation for a long time when it comes to watching TV. Because now we binge watch. We just watch it. Okay, cool. And it's over with. But now it's like during the week, I'm at odd moments, I'm saying, damn, okay, well, is it Friday yet? Oh, God, I gotta watch WandaVision, and I was the same way with The Mandalorian. So, yeah, kudos to Disney, which is another streaming service. I just thought now, I can't give that one up now either.
Yeah, I mean, I've got, Netflix, HBO Max, Disney, and Hulu are going to be like the ones I definitely hold on to.
And me and my wife earlier today, I was talking to her, and we were going through all of the lists of all of the stuff that we, that we're subscribing to. Say, okay, we get rid of this, we get rid of that. No, we can't get rid of this. No, we can't get rid of that. Because really, I mean, realistically, you can't keep up with all of them.
No, you definitely can't.
You can't keep up with all of them. So we was just trying to figure out, okay, well, we really don't watch this one. So, and I was saying to her, well, you know what? Just cut it. Because if we decide, I said, because it's not going anywhere. If we decide that we do want to pick it, we'll just subscribe to it again. That's all.
Yeah.
But for now, let's cut it and see if we can do without it. And most of the time, most of the time we usually subscribe to just watch one or two things anyway.
Right, exactly. And like once this current slate of Marvel stuff has kind of run its course, I might pause my Disney Plus subscription for a while.
Right. Yeah.
And then see until something else comes on there, and then I'll re-up it. Or until Helena starts getting old enough to start being able to pay attention to stuff, then we'll probably have to keep it nonstop.
Yeah. Well, see, there you go. See now, it's always something else, my friend. It's always something else.
All right. Let's see. Any big news this week? I wasn't really paying attention because I was so caught up in writing this.
I wasn't paying attention to anything. There was a little fake Moon Knight trailer going around. I noticed.
Oh God, I hate when people do that.
Yeah, and I was telling people, I said, "Well, can't you tell that's fake?" And they said, "No. How do you know it's fake?" Because I have eyes, I can see.
Yeah.
You know, and I can see, you know, well, I don't know, because I recognize the scenes from other movies that were spliced in there to, you know, make it look like. I said, but no, it's not real. You know, but you know, and people, it says something about the character of people that have nothing better to do than sit at home and do shit like that. And I don't. You could spend that time being so much more productive doing something original. And that people would actually enjoy. They just, I honestly do not understand the satisfaction that comes out of making a fake trailer.
Yeah, same here. I mean, well, I understand it if you want to practice. I understand it, like, from a film editing perspective, you want to practice I get it. I get that. But don't advertise it as a real trailer. Like, let people know it's a fake trailer I did for fun or something like that.
Right, exactly.
That stuff I'm cool with. You do that, fine. But when you start putting up and you're like, oh, this, and I'm like, that, now you're just being a dick.
Yeah, and they had like the Disney logo on it and everything, you know. So a lot of people did actually think that it was, well, of course, if you see the Disney logo on there, you say, oh, well, it must be Disney.
Right,
No, there's a lot of creative people out there who unfortunately squander their creativity. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
So if there's anybody out there who makes fake trailers who I have offended with this, tough. Seriously, you're not coming to Brooklyn to get me, so you know, what do I care?
Exactly. Well, actually, one thing I did see was they had a new trailer for Superman and Lois, which was premiering at the end of February.
Yeah.
So I saw that. Do you see that new trailer?
Yes, I did.
What do you think of that?
I'm looking forward. The more I see of this show, the more I'm looking forward to it. Well, we've been waiting to see this cat play Superman ever since the first scene he was in Supergirl.
Yes.
So you know, we've been waiting for this.
Yeah. Like, I've been ever since that first episode he was in Supergirl. I'm just like, this guy's got to get his own Superman TV show.
Exactly. So yeah. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it with anticipation that makes me feel good about superhero stuff again. You know,
and the thing I like about it is it's a take that we haven't seen on Superman before. Like, even not only in TV, but even to a certain extent in the comics. Like, we got a little bit of it when they had the Lois and Clark comic book that Dan Jurgens did when they introduced their son, right? And and they had that continued into the Superman Rebirth stuff. Like, we got a little bit of it, but this is like, but he knew his father was Superman, like, ever since from the day he was born, basically. But this one, these kids are teenagers, and there's two of them. And to top it all off, you know, Lois and Clark have lost their jobs at the Daily Planet, so they're moving back to Smallville. So it's a really interesting. I'm really curious to see how they handle it.
Yeah, I mean, it's different. It's not the same old status quo, which we've already seen. You know, Superman working at the Daily Planet and trying to keep his secret identity from Lois. Okay, we've had decades of seeing that. You know, let's see something different. And apparently, that's what they said we're going to do. You know what? Let's do something different.
And I will give, you know, slim bit of credit to Man of Steel. One of the things I actually liked that they did is they did away with the whole, you know, him trying to hide his identity from Lois, and they just revealed right from the start, no, she knows who he is.
Yeah, because that, well, you know, it was a different time, and they got a lot of mileage out of that whole. I mean, they got a whole series. What Lois Lane had her own comic book that ran for years based on that one premise.
Yeah, like her and Lana Lang trying to fight over Superman and trying to prove that Superman was Clark Kent.
That was the sole premise of every single damn issue. Or else it was a fantasy story. Well, they called it an imaginary story about she would like dream she was married to Superman.
Or the one where there was the really weird one when she becomes black for a day or something.
Oh yeah, I'm Curious Black.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely a milestone in DC Comics history. You know? I mean, but you know what? I give them credit for at least making the attempt to try to, you know, at least say, okay, well, we see this as an issue, and we're going to deal with it the best way we know how. You know, did they succeed? Well, you know, but it was based on an actual book at that time.
Right. Black Light.
You know, that came out about a guy that, you know, he was white and he got makeup and he tanned himself and everything like that to pass for black to see. So it was a big thing at the time.
Yeah.
It was the thing to do. And They're still doing it. We had that chick of what? What's her name? Rachel.
Oh,
whatever.
Rachel Dolezal. Yeah,
she passed for black for what?
Well,
20, 30 years.
She was like leading a chapter of the NAACP or something like that, wasn't she?
See that? Okay. Here's the thing. People ask me about her, and I said, you know what? I really don't have a problem with her. They said, really? Why not? I said, because it's not like she made a ton of money doing this.
Mm-hmm.
She just lived as a black person. She, and she didn't do it for financial gain because nobody in their right mind who's white is going to pretend that they're black unless there's something in it for them.
Yeah,
she didn't do it. She did it just simply because she felt she was a black person. She didn't defraud anybody.
Yeah.
She didn't, so it's a strange case, but it's
that was my thing. Like, I didn't really know what to think about it. I'm just like, this is just really weird.
Yeah, I mean, if she was,
and you know what it kept reminding me of that is Chris Rock's stand-up when he says, no one in here would trade places with me, and I'm rich.
Yeah, he said exactly. That's what I was trying to think of. Who said that? Because that's what came to my mind when he said, he said, there's not one white person here that would trade places with me, and I'm rich.
Yeah, and he hadn't met Rachel Dolezal.
Yeah, but I mean, this woman pretended to be black for no other reason than she wanted to be black. It's not like she did it to get any financial. She certainly didn't gain any monetary.
No, definitely not. Yeah,
because there's not a lot of money in being the local, the head of the local chapter of the NAACP.
Yeah,
there was no money in that. So yeah, it's a very weird case. But again, and I know about 20 of y'all say, okay, well, later for him, he don't know what he's talking about. I'm not gonna watch this shit again. I didn't have a problem with it myself. I really didn't.
But yeah, so that Lois and Clark show, just taking it back, like it is something I'm looking forward to. I'm glad that we're getting some more superhero stuff now because we've had like a year in the desert, right? With nothing.
And it seems to me that because my gut feeling was that, especially when I heard about a whole bunch of the CW stuff was going to be canceled because we're losing Supergirl. We're losing Black Lightning.
Yeah.
And I was saying, well, you know what?
We already lost Arrow, and then they and the spinoff, Green Arrow and the Canaries, they didn't pick that up.
Yeah, because my gut was that, okay, well, you know what? They're just going to move everything over to HBO Max now. And they're going to do all their superhero shows on HBO Max.
Yeah.
But apparently not, because they've got, this show on the CW. So, but they haven't really announced anything new.
Well, they've got something we talked about a few weeks ago, if you remember, that they're doing a Wonder Girl series.
Yeah.
With what's her name is developing it. She's also doing New Gods.
Oh, Ava DuVernay.
Ava DuVernay, yeah, she's apparently involved in that. So.
Oh, okay.
So, and that's based on the new Wonder Girl that they're introducing in Future State. So they got that, and then Stargirl, which is, I think it was originally for DC Universe, or was it for HBO Max? One of the two. But they are also airing the episodes on the CW.
I'm trying to remember. Was it? Yeah, because I think she was for DC Universe.
Yeah.
And then she moved over to, the CW.
Right. Well, it's on HBO Max and it's on the CW at the same time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so I'm looking forward to that because now I can watch because now I got my my VPN working right on my Apple TV, so now I can actually watch CW Seed and all that. So.
Oh, okay, cool.
So day after it airs, I'm gonna be able to watch the Superman, and it's a 2-hour premiere. They're doing back-to-back episodes for the premiere, so it's gonna be like a full movie.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. It's gonna be nice. It's been like, over 10 years since we had a good Superman movie. So
yeah. Good. Well, I have to tell Patricia don't bother me that night.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So now the whole Rachel Dolezal conversation was actually it's a nice way to transition into today because we're doing just like last year, we did a spotlight on Black superhero movies for Black History Month, and we're continuing the tradition this year with first movie you picked, which is this little independent film from 2016 called Sleight.
Yeah, this is a movie, and I have to thank my wife Patricia because she found this. I didn't know anything about the movie. didn't know what it was about. But usually, like, she's the one, she'll say, okay, well, let's go see this movie. And I went to say, well, what do you want to see that for? She said, well, I don't know, but, you know, there's black people in it. Because that's her. If there's black people in it, she'll go see it. Me, again, we're going to lose visitors. We're going to lose viewers here. Me, I'm a little bit more discriminating. And so then we would go and I remember distinctly we were driving on the way to see this movie. She said, well, don't you want black people to support you and you know what you do and your writing and stuff like that and blah, blah, blah. I said, I want anybody with $1 to support me. They don't necessarily have to be black, you know.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we go see the movie and we went to see it, and about 45 minutes into the movie, I was pleasantly surprised because this reminded me a lot, believe it or not. Well, you've seen the movie, so either you agree or you disagree with me. It reminded me a lot of Unbreakable.
Yeah, you're right.
In that I realized I had been suckered into seeing one type of movie, and what I was actually watching was a superhero origin story.
Yeah.
That's what.
And it was it kind of reminded me of maybe I can't remember what the movie was, but there was one movie where we looked at, maybe it was A-Bar. I think it might have been A-Bar, where I was sitting there and I'm watching it and I'm thinking like, is this really a superhero movie? And then when you get to the part where you see like the magnet and stuff in his arm, like, oh, okay, now you got my attention.
Yeah, exactly. And for those of you who haven't seen the movie, I know a lot of people haven't seen it. Little short summary of the plot. We are introduced to a young man named Bo, who is a street magician.
Yeah, played by Jacob Lattimore.
Thank you. And his parents have passed away, and he's taking care of his little sister, and he's doing the street magician thing by day, and he is a low-level drug dealer by night, selling drugs with the intention that he wants to move to another city and provide a better life for his sister.
Right.
You know, in the course of doing this, he gets embroiled further and further in the drug world, because the guy he works for, Angelo, played incredibly by Dulé Hill.
Dulé Hill, yeah.
And if you've only seen this guy in The West Wing and in Psych, you're not going to recognize him.
No, I mean, I watched this when Angelo came on screen. I'm like, wait a minute, I know this guy. I'm like, I know this guy. And I look him up. I'm like, Dulé Hill. Why is that name so familiar? I look up his script. Like, holy shit, he was the guy from The West Wing.
Yeah. And I mean, he is full blown. He's not Al Pacino Scarface, but he's going in that path.
Yeah.
So what happens is that eventually it comes down to a showdown because, of course, Bo wants to get out of the game because he only got into it just to get a certain amount of money and get out. But Angelo has other plans for him. However, Bo has two aces up his sleeve, most appropriately him being a magician. One, he's very good at magic. And two, he has, and I have no idea how he did this, but this kid has implanted an electromagnet in his arm. So therefore, he can manipulate metal. Now, we're not talking about Magneto here.
Right, yeah.
But he can do enough just to throw other people off.
Yeah.
And, he can move certain objects and he can, and then later on, he gets the help of his high school science teacher who helps him soup it up. And then that's when the plot really gets into.
And one of the nice things about that, one of the things that really impressed me how they did that is they don't come right out and make a big deal about the fact that, oh, this is what he did in high school and all that. They keep it, they don't say anything about it directly, but they have these little hints in the background, right? Like you see the picture of him with the science award, and then you see like him, messing with electronics and that kind of stuff. And then also when he's talking to Holly, who's played by Seychelle Gabriel, who we last saw in The Spirit. She played the young version of Ava Mendes's character.
Yeah.
And when he's talking to her, he's talking about he wants to get his sister into a better school. And he says he's like, I went through that school system too. And there was only one teacher who cared. Right.
Yeah.
But so they do a good job of like giving us these little bit of drip so that when it happens, like it's not out of left field, but it's also not something you expected to happen.
Yeah, and I liked how and like everything in this movie is low key.
Mm-hmm.
There's the neighbor that lives across the street, and it's never explained how they met or what's going on, but they have a nice relationship. They have a nice friendship that's going on. She comes over and she babysits for his sister when he's out doing his drug deal thing. And one thing I liked about this movie that she knows he's doing the drug dealing, but we don't get that obligatory scene about, oh, well, you shouldn't be doing this, and oh my God, you never see any of them kind of hysterics. She knows why he's doing it, and she understands, and she knows he's a good guy, which he is.
Right.
I mean, it's extreme. The actor that plays this character, he is extremely likable. Right from the first 5 minutes of this movie, we're rooting for this guy. Now,
he's also been in Detroit. I don't know if you saw that movie.
No.
Okay, I haven't either. I heard it.
I haven't seen him in anything, or if I did, I didn't know it was him.
Yeah, it seems like he was in that, and he was also in The Chi, which is looks like it's a series set in Chicago, which I'm gonna have to look up now.
Oh, okay. Well, Patricia watches that. Yeah.
Oh, really?
I've never seen it, but she watches that show.
And apparently they're making like a reboot / sequel of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's in post-production now, and he's in that. So
yeah, just what the world needs. Just what the world needs. But okay, going back to the low key. Yeah, everything is like low key, even when he has the girlfriend. Mm-hmm. He doesn't hide what he does from the girlfriend, so we don't get none of the BS scenes about later on. Oh, why weren't you honest with me and everything? Mm-hmm. Like, no, he tells right up front. Listen, this is what I'm doing. I do this and do that, and she says, "Oh, okay, well, these are people that live in a real world where people do this stuff, and they understand that." Because anytime you see a movie about drug dealing or something like that, people, and then they find out that the main character is a drug dealer. Oh my God, you're dealing drugs. The people that live in this world understand this is something that goes on, and people do it for various reasons.
Yeah.
Now, the Dulé Hill character, he does it because he's psychotic.
Well, he's such an interesting character because at the beginning, he doesn't seem like a bad guy.
No,
right. They do a really good job with him. Like he's very charming. He's very, very approachable and everything like that. And even Bo even says, like I got into this with him because he wasn't like the typical gangbanger. And so like I thought I was just going to be selling to kids who want to rich white kids who want to party, basically.
Which is mostly who we see him selling drugs to in this. Yeah. We see that, there's a little running gag that is this guy that's always buying drugs because he wants to impress girls and stuff like that. And he tells them, you don't buy drugs to impress girls.
Yeah.
Just shut up and give me the mollies, but that's who we see him mostly selling to. It's not like he's hanging out. He's not, and he's driving to his appointments because these people are calling him. They're making appointments. And drop. He goes by this club, and he's. So it's not like, he's selling to kids in the schoolyard.
Right. Well, I'm glad you mentioned that thing about the guy he says to, like, you shouldn't do this to impress girls. Like, and that's another hint to, it's a really good, bit about, shows us a little bit more about what kind of person he is, that he is a good guy. And he's just, he's selling to people who aren't really like, drug addicts. He's just selling people who are, looking to have a fun time or something like that.
The recreational drug
user.
Yeah. The recreational drug user, And I know some of y'all out there saying, oh, I don't care. There's no such thing. It's horrible. All drug use is horrible. Well, you weren't around during the 80s. Let me leave it at that.
Well, just like also as someone who has known people like there are lots of people who they'll go out, they'll get drugs for like a party or something like that, and then they won't use it for like, months on end. Like there are people who do that, who are like these casual drug users who use it for like, social reasons. And, you can get into the morals, but it's not like he's going around selling to meth heads who are, living in squalor or anything like that.
In the interest of full disclosure, and I'm going to be very honest here with you folks and my friend here, during the 1980s, your esteemed co-host did his share of indulging in recreational pharmaceuticals as well. And let me tell you firsthand, there were plenty of people, people would just use drugs just when they were going out to party.
Yeah.
Others, they wouldn't touch it. Touch it. Other people, they, they went down that slippery slope. But I think because at that time, the 80s, that's how it was looked upon. It was looked upon as something you did when you went to party. It wasn't a lifestyle, like crack.
Right. Yeah.
Because, being a crack addict or a meth head, see, that's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
It becomes your lifestyle.
Yeah.
But, so I mean, I understand the morality and everything like that. And I know that people will watch this and say, oh, well, you're just making excuses for him. He's still a low-life drug dealer.
Well, I mean, that kind of mentality, it dismisses the economic realities for a lot of people in his position.
Yeah.
And that's really why people like him, like Bo, they get involved in this stuff, is because that's the best job they can get.
Yeah. And I mean, there are people, again, back in the day, I knew people, there were people that just did it just for a certain reason. Like, okay, they wanted to buy a house.
Right. Yeah.
So they would sell drugs until they achieved their goal. And then that's it. They would stop. They would, because that's what they wanted. Other people continue doing it just because they like the money and they like the lifestyle.
Right.
Everybody had different reasons for doing it.
There was there was a lot of Bo that reminded me of this other movie that came out a while back called The Hate You Give, which I think I've mentioned this before. And this is a movie where you got this girl who black girl living in the projects, but her parents have made sure to send her and her brother to like a fancy prep school type thing. Right. So that they could get it. So they and the young actress does a great job of like switching back and forth between those two worlds. She's a wonderful young actress, but anyway, that's not the point I wanted to make. The point I want to make is that she's got this friend who's, from her old school, who's from the neighborhood, and he's a drug dealer. And he's a drug dealer because his parents are gone, his grandma's got cancer, and there's nobody else to provide. Like they don't have insurance, they don't have anything. He's got no other way to provide other than selling drugs.
Yeah. And I mean, for a lot of people, that's the reality. It is. Unfortunately, that's the reality. It's a fast way to make a lot of, to make a lot of money. And I know that some people will say that Bo's situation in this is set up so that we will sympathize, with him, even though he's selling drugs. Okay. My argument is that this is, okay, he's selling drugs. The reason why he's selling drugs is very clearly laid out. And there is a definite effort on the parts of the actors and the director and the writers to show the difference between him and like Angelo.
Yes. Yeah.
And even the other people that are using drugs and everything. We're not dealing with people. Okay, we're not dealing with criminals except for Angelo.
And the two guys who works for him.
Right, and the guys he works with. One of them is played by the rapper Fat Joe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, who I always like seeing in a movie. But yeah, and then of course we get into the superhero angle, which, like I said, 40 minutes into the movie, that's when I realized, okay, I'm watching a superhero origin story. Especially, when I realized it, when him and his girlfriend, they're lying in bed and they're having this conversation about magic.
Yeah.
And to me, that sets it up for what we see later on in the movie, because there are certain things that Bo does. I don't know, and I'm not an expert in, magic and legerdemain and everything like that. But to me, there's a definite hint that he does have some kind of other abilities, because there's some things he does in this movie you can't explain it any other way.
Yes, like, I was thinking the same thing. Like when they revealed that it was all because of this, it was all an electromagnet. Like, and he explained to his teacher that he's got the wire, which I don't know how he had the wires running through his arms too. Like that was nothing. Yeah, and he's got the diodes in his fingers, where it's like, and that's how they got the positive in some fingers and negative in the other. That allows him to control like the direction of it and everything like that. That stuff made sense. The more I'm thinking about it, I'm like, wait, because we see it in his arm. But I'm kind of thinking, like, how did he get the wires running all the way down to his hand without cutting open?
How did he get it in his arm in the first place?
Yeah. And so like the first time when I'm watching it, and when the first time we see him, you know, when he's dabbing it he's cleaning out the infection and everything.
Yeah.
And also they had the medical bills, right? Like my first thought was human experimentation.
Right.
That was my first thought. Like, oh, maybe he was like experimented on or something like that.
Yeah. Because I mean, obviously he couldn't have done it to himself.
Yeah.
Somebody had to do it, you know, to him, even though he came up with the idea of implanting the electromagnet in his arm. But still, you know, because it looks like it's been, you know, crudely, yes, but it's been surgically implanted in his arm.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not going nowhere. So to me, that was like a setup. Okay, well, we're going to find out in a future movie if there's a sequel. And even though this was made like back 2016, yeah. So, and I've heard nothing about a sequel yet. I hope to God if the makers and the directors and writers see this, please, if you don't do a movie, at least do a graphic novel or do a series or do something to explain what happened, how he got that thing in his arm and his.
Well, not only that, but they have a huge cliffhanger at the end, right? When they move into this new place in San Diego and he's working in the bathroom or something, and she comes in to check on him, and there's like this light, the lights are like humming and everything like that, and she looks really surprised, and then it just cuts the credits. Like, what the hell was he doing in there?
Which again leads me to believe that he's got, because he does tricks in there. Like, remember when he goes to the club and he talks to the two guys and everything? Now he never touches them. And then when he's coming back out, they say to him, "Oh, well, you always do a trick for us. You know, where's the trick at?" He said, "Oh, here." And he throws one guy his wallet and another guy his cell phone. And they said, "Well, how did he do that?" He said, "He never touched us."
Well, like other things too, like when he's making like these cards disappear and he makes it appear in like the girl's purse or something like that. And I'm just like, and the whole time I'm thinking like, I thought he had like some sort of teleportation ability or something.
Right. Yeah. Right. That's what. Yeah, because apparently there's something else going on with this kid. You know, it's not just the electromagnet in his arm. There's something that, like you said, it ends on that cliffhanger where, and she's not scared, mind you. She's actually smiling. She's delighted. She says, "Oh my God!" And then there's that light, and then boom. And you're sitting there. You said, "Wait a minute, that's it?"
Yeah, and right before that, because they've got the shot of his desk, and they focus in on this this big like toolbox thing with a lock on it.
Yeah, the mysterious toolbox.
Yeah, so there's something in there that he's working on, and I get that ties into the end.
And if you notice, he has that big honking poster of Houdini as well, who also was reputed to have abilities, because they said there's some stuff that Houdini did. They said there's no other way to explain it than the man actually had, you know, some kind of superhuman abilities. That's the only way he could do it. So that's why I took it to, you know, that's why they had that poster up on the wall. They didn't spend a lot on this movie, but it looks like a more expensive movie than what it is. What they really concentrated on, and again, we always go back to this again with these superhero movies. The casting is excellent, and everybody's got good chemistry with each other. And it doesn't take a lot for you to get invested because the characters are so likable and the actors are so good. It doesn't take a lot for you to get invested in the story.
Yeah. So it had a budget. I'm just looking because you mentioned they'd spent a lot of. So yeah, the budget was only $250,000, and it made almost $4 million worldwide. Well, actually, no, that's just in the U.S. It says cumulative world. So I guess it was probably only released in the U.S. then. But yeah, it definitely made its money back.
Because I know the theater that we went to see it to, we had to catch a matinee because that was the only showing.
Oh,
it was
really?
It was only one showing a day, and it was the matinee. That was it. Yeah.
And this director hasn't. The only other thing he's done is never mind. He's got a bunch of stuff coming up. I was looking at the wrong thing. I was just known for. But it looks like he's doing an episode of the new Twilight Zone that Jordan Peele is behind. And he did another movie called Sweetheart. He's doing another movie now. It's in pre-production called Devotion. About some Navy fighter pilots in the Korean War. But yeah,
so he's still working.
He's still working. Yeah.
Okay, good. He should, because he's a good director.
Mm-hmm.
I like this. I mean, after I saw this movie, I ran home and I wrote a review right away, which I usually don't do. I usually wait like a day or two and let it marinate in my head before I write a review. But I wanted to get this review out to as many people as I could, to, you know, because I said, well, I can see the handwriting on the wall. This isn't going to be in theaters very long.
Yeah.
And I wanted to get the word out to as many people. Listen, if you can find this movie, go see it, you know, before it, you know, disappears. And a lot of people that did read my review, they, you know, they contacted me and said, oh man, thank you. I would have probably never went to see that movie. And now, of course, now that it's on HBO Max, it's like a whole new audience is finding it now.
Yeah.
My understanding, you know, because it's on there. So hopefully we will get a Sleight Part 2, because I definitely would like to see how this young man's story, you know, continue. It's very, very good movie. I cannot recommend it highly enough.
Yeah, and one of the things you mentioned, which, you know, I wanted to, you know, reinforce, I guess, or whatever, like, or sign on to, is the whole fact that these do feel like really like this. It's not preachy. It's not. It feels, it's presenting like all the, aside from all the fantasy elements, when you get into the sci-fi stuff and the magic and all that, like it feels very. That stuff, like, you know, I was talking about the we were talking about how, like, well, how do you get the wires in there? And when you start thinking about that stuff afterwards, you start to wonder. But it gives you just enough of that stuff, and it's surrounded, and it's so well grounded in the characters and this very real life situation, right? This is the kind of lives that a lot of people in this situation are living, and it's very honest about all of that, and so it makes you buy that stuff a lot easier.
Yeah, it's not like going back to Unbreakable, because Unbreakable, I think the reason why that movie suckered me in is because, okay, just like with this movie, we don't get the melodramatic bombast that we get from a lot of other movies. It's very, everybody talks in even tones of voice, and, you know, everybody's very real, except, of course, when they're chopping off people's hands and putting bullets through their heads. Then, of course, matter of fact, I think Dulé Hill is the only character that yells in this whole movie.
Yeah, probably.
Everybody else is like, you know, but it's not the bombast of your usual superhero movie that announces, well, this is a superhero movie. You know, this movie does nothing to announce itself that, okay, you're going to be, just stick with it for a while and you're going to realize you're watching a superhero movie.
Yeah.
You know? And I'm saying, oh, okay. And of course, by the time you get to the fight scene where we really see him use his powers, then it hits you. You say, okay, that's what this is. You know, it's I mean, I can't get over how good this one. And I watched it today, and I hadn't seen it since, you know. Well, no, I've seen it one time since then, but that was long enough that I felt like I was watching a brand new movie. It's a very fresh feeling movie if you haven't seen it for a while. That's why I think it's going to be around for a while. It's going to be one of those movies that keeps getting rediscovered. I think so. It
definitely has that feel, because it does such a good job of really sucking you into this world, and you just kind of like go with it for everything. It's never boring. Like, I was never checking my watch or to see what time it was or anything like that. I was completely intrigued the whole time.
Yeah. And you never feel like, you know, you're watching something that, I don't know, you don't feel like you're watching something that's contrived. It's very natural performances, like I said, from everybody. Very natural performances. There's a wonderful scene where they're having dinner and they're around the table. And I love that scene because they're just sitting there. And sometimes the scenes where people are just talking, it's harder to pull off than the ones where people are having fights and they're throwing each other through the wall and there's action and there's blah, 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 blah. But to just have people sitting around a table talking and you're enjoying listening to their conversation.
Yeah.
And that's what I was doing. I was enjoying listening to the conversation that they was having. It's very, very nice, small, intimate scene until, of course, we get Angelo with his bullshit. He comes knocking on the door and okay, here we go.
But even still, like, they do such a good job of playing that scene, because you know there's something, because now he knows about what kind of person Angelo is.
Yeah.
And So you know there's something bad's going to go down. And which makes it even all the more unsettling because Angelo is so nice and personable to everybody else. He's so charming. He's so charming. He's so polite.
It's three women of different ages sitting at that table, and he charms all of them.
Yeah.
He bam, 10 seconds. He charms all of them, which to me is the true danger of that character.
Because
he's so charming.
Yeah.
Before you know it, you're in love with this guy. You say, oh, well, Angelo couldn't do that. He's such a nice guy.
Exactly. Yeah. And it really comes to a head when you see, well, even in that scene when they go to the poker game with the other, drug dealers trying to muscle in his territory. Even then, he remains almost reasonable, right? Because he's telling him, he's like, look, you want to sell here, then you got to sell my stuff. Give me 30%. Otherwise, you can leave. But he actually they do a good job making him seem pretty reasonable in it, even though this is like a freaky situation and more than what Bo thought he was getting involved in. But even still, he seems kind of reasonable. And it's not until later when he comes in, they capture the guy, and he hands him the butcher knife. He's like, all right, go ahead, make sure you take it off. And I'm like, and Bo's like, wait, what? Even he's surprised.
And then he tells him, he said, listen, it's either his hand or yours.
Yeah.
And by this time, we realize that Angelo is capable of anything. Mm-hmm. So now we're scared for Bo. Because this guy's serious. But yeah, you're right. I love how he sits down because he's a businessman. He's negotiating.
Yeah.
He's saying, listen, I don't care if you sell. It's fine. Yeah, you can sell. I don't mind. But you just have to sell my product.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to kick back, 30% or whatever.
Yeah.
It's not like he's running. It's not like he's telling him he's got to get out of town by sundown.
Yeah.
Because he's saying, I can make money, you can make money. There's enough money out there for everybody.
Yeah.
And the guy, instead of sitting there and negotiating, no, he wants to sit there. He want to be a badass.
Mm-hmm.
So, hey, not to say he deserves what happens to him, but if you notice, Angelo didn't go in there with guns blazing right away and start killing everybody and everything he escalates it. Of course he beats up, his, the guy's chief henchman. What's the guy's name? Marcus. He beats up his chief henchman, but that's because the guy, he throws the poker chips at him. And,
right. Yeah.
And if he knew anything about Angelo, he would never did that. He'd have never did that.
But that scene when they chop off the hand, that was a really harrowing scene. Even though they don't show anything, right?
No, yeah.
But it's just the way they show, the close-ups of of Bo's face, the close-ups of Maurice's face, and just the sound, right? And then you got Angelo going oh, you didn't quite get it. You got to hit it again, and you're like, oh, wow,
yeah. But you hit a point. It's more effective for us seeing Bo's face because really this is the first real violence Bo has ever had in his life.
Yeah.
He's experienced. You can see it on his face. This shit ain't fun anymore.
Yeah, and that's all the more credit to Lattimore that he does such a good job portraying that.
Yeah. I mean, and matter of fact, after he goes outside, throws up.
Yeah. Well, he almost throws up in the room.
Yeah.
And also, but also when they go into the poker game, the way he's holding the gun, he's so nervous about it. He's
never held the gun. He's never held the gun.
Right, exactly. And they do such a good job of showing the reality of that situation.
Well, what it is that Angelo is gradually sucking him into, that world so that he always has something over his head.
Right. Yeah.
That's what it is. Instead of, he's, because there's a part near the end of the movie where he said, something, this is such a shame. He said, because I really liked you.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of bullshit. You get the feeling Angelo don't like nobody.
No, actually, I did believe him when he said that. Because I did believe that he actually did like this kid. But this is the way that Angelo does business. This is the way that business is done. Right.
Yeah, that's his world.
I did get the sense that it was kind of take it back to Breaking Bad, right? Even though he's a total bastard to him, Walter really does care for Jesse.
Oh yeah.
And it's very and I think that was it was a little hint of that as well with Angelo and Bo as well.
Yeah, because you're right. Because going back to that scene where he goes to Angelo's house and they're sitting there, and he's almost like a big brother. He's asking, "Well, how you doing? You got a girl yet?" And everything like, "Yeah, well, I met this girl. I'm going to take." "Oh, really? Here." And he pulls out a bunch of money. He says, "Here, dates on me, man. Everything." And they're talking back and forth, and it's like, okay, well, and as the audience, we're getting sucked in too. We say, yeah, Angelo is, for a drug dealer, he's a pretty cool guy.
Right, yeah.
But as the movie progresses and we go on and on and on and on. And I think that also, we said this earlier, part of the reason why it's so shocking is because we've seen this guy play such nice guys before. We've never seen him play anybody, at least I haven't. I've never seen him play anything like this before.
Yeah.
So it was even all the more shocking. It's like if you've only seen Andy Griffith in the Andy Griffith Show, and then you watch A Face in the Crowd, you say, "Holy shit! Is this the same? Is this the same actor?"
Yeah.
God, yeah.
No, yeah, and another thing too I really like is the chemistry between Bo and T is also really well done. His sister.
Oh yeah.
Like
they had me convinced they were brothers and sisters.
Right from the start. Right, he comes over to her and she's sitting on the bench reading. He's like, "Well, what are you reading?" She says, "Oh, I'm reading Hatch." He's like, "Oh," he's like, "I read that last year." He's like, "I nearly cried." And she's like, "Don't tell me anything."
And one thing I like is that, again, they didn't go for the thing and make her like this bratty little sister and anything like that. They work together. He tells her, they come in the house, they say, "Okay, listen, don't leave your stuff around, laying around the living room." She doesn't give him any back talk, any lip. She goes ahead, she picks up, she said, "Oh, here, well, you've got the mail." And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "Okay, see, that's very natural. That's how two people that are living together, whereas in something else, she'd have been this little smart mouth kid and stuff like that. Right. Back to him, giving him a hard time. And then you'd have a scene where he's saying, "Oh, I'm doing the best I can, trying to do this." We don't get that here.
None of that.
God for that. Yeah.
Oh, what's interesting is so the actress who plays her, Storm Reed, she's going to be in the Suicide Squad.
No fooling.
Yeah, she's playing Tyla is the character's name. I don't know who that is, but yeah, she's going to be in the Suicide Squad.
I can't wait for the Suicide Squad.
Oh God, yeah. I'm getting anxious for that first real trailer that we get.
HBO Max.
Yep.
It's gonna be on there because it's a Warner Brothers movie.
Yeah, it's going to be on HBO Max. Speaking of digressing, but I also saw the Godzilla versus Kong trailer too.
Oh, what'd you think?
Oh, that looks awesome.
Oh, yeah. It's gonna be two big monsters fighting.
Exactly. Yeah.
As you know, I'm a huge fan of Skull Island.
Yeah, me too. I love Skull Island.
I love Skull Island. Yeah, that was fantastic movie. Loved it. So yeah, so I'm looking forward to this. I wasn't too crazy about the other Godzilla movie. What was it? Godzilla King of the Monsters.
Oh, you didn't like that one?
It's not that I didn't like it, but I felt that the monsters were too big and too powerful.
Okay.
Because Godzilla is powerful, but he's capable of being defeated. The Godzilla that's in that movie, it's like there's no way you could beat him. It's like, and you say, okay, well, these creatures were around. Why didn't they destroy the Earth? Long ago, because then they got Ghidra, the three-headed monster, and Mothra, and who is my favorite? I love Mothra. Only thing is they don't have the two little girls that's in the box. Remember them?
I never saw the original Mothra, but I know what you're talking about.
Listen, anytime them two little heifers started singing, you knew shit was about to get real. They said, "Ooh la Mothra." Ooh, I said, "Oh yeah." All right, this movie's got about another 20 minutes to go because shit's about to get real.
Now going back to Sleight. Like you mentioned, Seychelle Gabriel, last thing we saw him was The Spirit. And if you remember, we talked about that. Like, she did a really good job in that movie. Like, she had a very small part, but she really made you think that she was a young Eva Mendes.
She looked exactly like her. And I said, oh my God. And as we've said before, and as people probably get sick of me hearing say that, it's one of the things that bugs me in movies is that when they give us a younger version of a character that looks nothing like the older version. Or when they give us characters that are supposed to play brothers or sisters, and they look nothing like each other.
Mm-hmm.
So I always appreciate it when the casting director or whoever goes the extra mile and gives us a character that actually does look like,
mm-hmm.
And yeah, I liked her. She was one of the few things that was good about that movie.
Yeah.
She was one of the few good things that stood out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if you want to hear more about that,
if you have not heard our Spirit episode, after you're done with this, go listen to it.
Yeah. And I think that's the first time we actually both hated a movie that we talked about on this show.
Yeah. That was the first time. Well, I mean, me and you, we don't like talking about things we don't like.
Right. We were just on the Pop DNA podcast, and that was one of the things we talked about with them, is that we want to focus on, even if it's a movie that we don't like, we still want to try to find something that we liked about it. We don't want to be those guys who just sit there and just trash everything. Like that's
yeah. I mean, what's the fun in that?
Yeah.
There's no fun in that, and there's no fun in it. And I would much rather, as I've always said, I would much rather turn people on to things that I think that they will enjoy, rather than waste my time telling, well, you shouldn't see this. This is a horrible movie. Unless it really is a really, really horrible movie that you absolutely should not see. Yeah.
And The Spirit definitely fits that category.
Oh, man. That thing was bad. And you know what? I actually watched about half of it, the other day. I was flipping channels and Spirit was on. Don't ask me why I stopped and watched it. I said, okay, probably. Oh, I know. It was seen with Scarlett Johansson. And I said, oh, what's this? And then I said, oh, Spirit. And I watched. I said, oh, yeah.
But she was really good in this. And looks like I didn't know this, but she was also in Falling Skies, the TV show.
It was a TV series, right?
Yeah, from 2011 to 2014.
The alien invasion thing.
Right, yeah. She played Lourdes Delgado in that.
Okay, never saw it.
I think I saw maybe like the first episode or something, but but it's on HBO Max now, so I think I might actually have to go sit down and watch it.
You know what's on HBO Max? And here comes another digression, folks. I promise you we're going to get back to Sleight. Something that is on HBO Max. Now, I saw the news all over Facebook about it. And I said, okay, I'm finally going to sit down and watch it and try to get through it. Babylon 5.
Oh, yeah, I saw that too. I added that to my list because I've never seen that either.
I've never been, and I know there's a lot of guys that we know, like, Bobby Nash and Van Allen Plexico, who, for him, that's like the greatest TV series ever made, apparently. Because he owns it in like 3 or 4 different formats, and I don't know. I've never been able to get past the first season.
Oh, okay.
Never. It just doesn't turn. Well, maybe because I'm, like Star Trek. I'm into Star Trek, so maybe that's why. But I said, you know what? Now, and it's like remastered and everything like that. So I said, you know what? I'm going to make a definite effort now to try to get through the whole series, simply because there's so many people I know who love it so much. So there's got to be something to it.
One more brief digression. This kind of ties back to what we're talking about. They also have, I saw a preview for something else that's coming out on HBO Max. What is it? Judas and the Black Messiah.
Oh, yeah.
About Fred Hampton. Now that I'm really looking forward to.
I want to see, yeah.
I saw the trailer for that and I'm just like, that looks really good. But
that's it. Like I said, I got to keep HBO Max.
Yeah, they're doing a good job of keeping my money. But I already, like I said last week during Wonder Woman 84, right? When I went to sign up so I could watch Wonder Woman, they hit me right away and they said, hey, if you pay $60 up front, you get 6 months subscription, which is a discount. And I'm like, okay, sure. So they got me for at least 6 months. Probably longer because I'm pretty sure Suicide Squad doesn't come out until after those 6 months. So
yeah, well, I mean, now that they got the thing with that, they've got all the Warner Brothers movies for, the whole year. You say, hey, why wouldn't I keep it just to watch all these movies they were going to release in the theaters anyway? I mean,
right.
I mean, if anybody has shown that they know how to get people's money, is HBO Max.
Yeah, they and it's nice they're finally figuring it out, because for a while they didn't really know what they were doing. They were kind of stumped, right? They had like 2 different HBO subscriptions. There was one that was a streaming service, and then there was one that was only if you had an HBO cable subscription, and then they had DC Universe as well. And so now it looks like they're finally getting their shit together.
Well, they consolidated everything.
Yeah.
Because you're right. They had like 3 or 4 different HBO streaming services.
Right.
And they just like kind of said, you know what? We're confused. Let's just consolidate everything into one, which of course makes more sense.
Yeah.
And and apparently it has worked, because I know myself, a lot of people that said they were never going to sign up for another streaming service. They signed up for HBO Max.
I was one of them.
Yeah. A lot of people I know, they say, damn it. But hey, I mean, what are you going to do?
Yeah. And they've got stuff. I've been enjoying what I've been finding on there. But anyway,
one of our friends, Mark, he's been overdosing on all the DC stuff. He said he had no idea all that stuff was on there.
In fact, speaking of DC, I watched Superman Red Son the other day as well.
I keep meaning to watch. Oh, man. See? There's not enough hours in the day.
There's not. There's so much stuff on there I want to see. All right. Anyway, back to Sleight.
Finally.
Now I want to talk about that final battle scene. Well, and what was kind of weird is that when he's talking to the teacher, and he's, the teacher, there's this weird thing because, the teacher's like, you shouldn't be putting that in your arm, but then he agrees to help him upgrade it.
Yeah.
And they go, and I'm thinking like, well, maybe there's something in there that he's told the teacher why he needs it. But then they go out and they use it on the car, and the teacher's like, this is not for a well, bitch, if you thought it was for a trick, why were you doing it?
There's a little there's a little something weird going on there, because I know if somebody came to me and they had an electromagnet implanted in their arm, the first thing I'm saying, well, we're calling, like a doctor, we got to get you to a hospital, especially when he noticed that it's infected.
Yeah.
But he goes along with it pretty rapidly, which seems to me indicates that there's a scene missing where he explains to him what's going on, because we never see that. We never see him like explain to him, well, listen, these drug dealers have got my sister hostage, and why don't we just go to the cops? All of that is like, we never see any of that. It's like the teacher just says, okay, well, I help you, boost it. Now, is that because there's more to this teacher that they're not saying that maybe we were going to see in another movie? Or was it just scenes cut out? I'm leaning toward that there were scenes there that were cut out that we didn't see.
Maybe, but it is weird because when they go out and they test it on the car, right? And then he says, well, this is not for a trick, is it?
And know what I like too? When he's trying to pull the car to him, he moves.
He moves, yeah.
Right, because he does not have the mass, body strength. Because of course, if this was a typical superhero movie, he would pull the car to him.
Right.
But he can't do that because, as a matter of fact, he grabs his arm. Because, because he doesn't have the mass and the strength to pull that car, which I say, okay, see, somebody knows how superpowers work.
Yeah.
He can't just pull, like a 1-ton car to him,
Well, because he doesn't manipulate the magnetic fields. He just creates a magnetic field.
Right.
So he doesn't really have any real control. Like you said, it is not Magneto who he can control the magnetic field. So that's why he can stay still and move stuff that's like heavier than him.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. So the screenwriter understands how superpowers work.
Right. He's just basically a magnet in his hand. That's all it really is.
It's a magnet in his hand.
Yeah.
It's like, because I've always said that every superhero who has superpowers, who has super strength, every superhero who has super strength, they have a certain measure of invulnerability.
Yeah.
They have to have it, because the first time they try to pick up something, they tear themselves apart.
Yeah.
So that kind of like goes along with it, a certain degree of invulnerability. Because, if you try to pick up a car, this is what would happen to you. So it's an understanding when he's trying to move the car. It's an understanding of how physics work.
Yeah.
And how the human body works and everything like that.
There was one scene in, I think it was Global Frequency was the name of the comic. And there's one scene that always stood out to me is when there's this one character who had cybernetics. And she was talking about like the limitations of it. She's like you have to reinforce it, because otherwise you're hooking up a metal arm to bone and it's going to break off the bone.
Right.
Because it's just too heavy. So you need like extra reinforcement there just in order to have it affixed in the first place.
Right. Because even, okay, you remember the $6 Million Man?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, I remember reading the book that it was based on, Cyborg by Martin Caidin. I remember reading that book. And I remember distinctly reading in that book that they explained to Steve Austin, well, listen, there's only so much that you can lift because the bionic arm is attached to, your bone and you're going to tear that out if you try to. Yeah, you can pick up stuff and you can. Mostly in the book, what he never did like in the TV series, he was doing all kinds of stuff like picking up airplanes and stuff like that. But in the book, he was using it more like a battering ram or stuff like that because he couldn't pick up anything over a certain weight, or he would risk, that interface between the bionics and the flesh. He would risk tearing that, which to me was very fascinating. Yeah, that kind of stuff to me fascinates the actual physics behind having superpowers and stuff like that. Because I remember arguing with a friend of mine that we were arguing about invisibility for like 3 hours about, well, how do you see if the light is going through your eyes? Because that's the vision depends on you. Yeah, how do you see?
There was a Marvel novel way back in the day. It was a Spider-Man Fantastic Four novel. It was like part of they did a Spider-Man team up trilogy. It was called Doomsday. And each book he teamed up with a different hero. Like the first one was the Hulk, I think the second one was Iron Man, and the third one was the Fantastic Four. And there's this one scene where Spider-Man was crawling up the side of the building and the Sue Storm had turned him invisible. And that was his interior monologue. He's like, how does this work? How am I seeing anything? And it was all explained. And I'm like, and I was reading this and I was like, I was a kid when I read this. I'm just like, I never thought about that. That actually makes a lot of sense.
Makes a lot of sense. So that one scene where he's trying to pull the car to him, see, that rang true to me. Because in any other movie, he would have did like that and the car would have came to him.
Yeah. And going along with that, like it shows like when he goes into Angelo's house at the end for that final confrontation, he doesn't try to manipulate anything that's too heavy, exactly for that reason. Right. He tears out the guy's, metal teeth. He stops the bullets and he pushes one of them back into Angelo's head. But he's not like trying to, throw a car at him or anything like that.
Right, exactly. Like when the guy comes at him and he's got the aluminum bat and he stops the bat. He's able to stop the bat. Yeah. And like you said, when he stops the bullets. It's little small things. It keeps his superpowers in the realm of, okay, I can see that.
Right.
I can see that. This kid is not Magneto. He's not lifting Yankee Stadium, stuff like that.
It doesn't go the Chronicle route where it starts out small and then you just keep building, and then they're having a whole huge battle in the city. Right. This all stays extremely grounded.
Which some people looking at this might think is like kind of similar or something like that. No, it's not. This is about as different from Chronicle as a Big Mac is from sirloin steak.
Well, Chronicle was much more about like how much humans suck.
Well, yeah.
This movie gives you more faith in humanity, right? Because he's got this power, but he's only using it because he's trying to get out of the situation. Right?
Yeah. I mean, it's a much more, dare I say, it's an optimistic movie.
It is. It's
an optimistic movie, which is another reason why I want people to see this and why I'm recommending it. Because again, I like superhero movies where, superheroes like being superheroes. And this kid likes being able to do all these magic tricks. And he likes being able to, lift up stuff and mess with people's heads, which is basically, he does that one trick in the coffee shop. I said, you know what? This guy's got to have real magic powers. I have there's no other explanation for how he was able to do that.
Yeah. But there's a lot of stuff that I'm just like, wait a minute.
Yeah. But then again, I've seen other guys do it, like David Blaine. David Blaine does that thing where he levitates and he has people standing around him and he's on the street. Now, how does he do that? They say it's a trick.
Right, yeah.
Well, I don't know. I see a man floating 2 or 3 feet off the ground It's both his feet. There's nothing supporting him. I have to come to the conclusion that he's actually levitating. I don't care how much you tell me it's a trick, especially when there's people standing around him.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to conclude that, the cat's actually levitating. And people say, well, you don't believe that, do you? Well, sure, why not? There's a lot of crazy shit out in this world that have yet to be explained. Why couldn't he be levitating?
Yeah. But and going back to something you said too, is like about it being optimistic, because a lot of people might go into this movie thinking that, because there is this impression that grounded superhero movies, like, are going to be like, depressing affairs, dark affairs, but this is not. Like, it's very grounded, but it is very optimistic.
It is. It is. It's not. Yeah, and okay, when you say grounded, and I think that you're absolutely right. People have a different expectation when you say, well, this is grounded. But that's only because, just like, okay, there are different types of dramas and different types of comedies.
Right.
Well, there are different types of superhero movies. You get your Avengers Endgame, which has got 1,000 superheroes and the fate of the universe at stake. And then you have this movie where it's just about a kid with an electromagnet in his arm and some magic tricks trying to stop a drug dealer from, killing his sister.
Yeah.
It's it's different degrees of superhero movies, and there's room for all of them.
Right. That's something else I was thinking watching this, is because that is one of the things that annoys me with, like, say, a lot of the Spider-Man movies that were before Homecoming. Right. It's always got to be someone's about to destroy the city. Right. It's like same thing. The Batman movies had that same problem too. It's like there's got to be someone's trying to destroy the city, right? In Batman Begins, it was Ra's al Ghul was trying to tear the city apart with the fear gas. The Joker was trying to basically blow everybody up. The Bane was trying to set off a nuclear bomb in the city. It's always got to be like the whole city is going to die unless we do something.
Right.
But you don't have to do that. Like, and you can do a Spider-Man movie where, like Homecoming, where he's just trying to stop the Vulture from stealing a bunch of technology, and it can still feel really epic, and it can still be really satisfying.
I think what happens is that they think that one of our favorite film series, the James Bond film series.
Yeah, that's a perfect example. Yeah.
Fell into that trap too, where every James Bond movie had a supervillain trying to take over the world.
Right.
Until now we got to the Timothy Dalton movies, and then in one he fought a drug dealer, and another one he was just trying to get revenge for his friend being fed to a shark.
Right.
It was not every James Bond movie has to have him facing a supervillain trying to take over the world.
Yeah.
And like you said, every superhero movie doesn't have to be about the fate of the world.
Well, that was one of the reasons why Casino Royale was such a breath of fresh air, because it was just him trying to stop this terrorist through a poker game. Yeah. And that was the whole plot. Lashif's whole master plan was, I'm gonna get a whole bunch of money to pay off these terrorists who are trying to kill me by playing poker.
That's it.
Yeah.
And you know what? That's all you need. I mean, you don't need to have the fate of the world at stake in every movie. Now, I understand why in some of these bigger movies, say like the MCU,
right.
Okay, well, we've got all this money and we've got all this talent. Why not use it? But you can also make smaller superhero movies that are about, which is why I've always appreciated the fact that, like, I may have told this story before, I probably have. I remember in this comic book, it was the Avengers where Spider-Man had disappeared and the Avengers were looking for him. And it was somebody, I don't remember who, but they say to Iron Man, they said, well, is it worth all this effort to be looking for Spider-Man? Why we bother? And Iron Man says, because Spider-Man is necessary. If he's not out there on the street, holding down street level crime, then we got to do it. And we're supposed to be looking out for Thanos and Kang and all them other cats that want to carry on cranky. So he went on, he said, like Spider-Man and Daredevil and Luke Cage, they perform a useful function. They keep down the street crime. And you can have characters like Spider-Man. And the Netflix series illustrated that perfectly with their series, with Daredevil and Luke Cage and Jessica Jones. That's what these guys did. They weren't the Avengers. They concerned themselves with, street level, because that's what they know.
That was one of the things that always annoyed. That's why I didn't like those guys being Avengers. Like, that's why I didn't want, Daredevil or Spider-Man or Luke Cage being an Avenger. And everybody says to me, it's like, oh, why? You don't think they're good? No, it's not that they're not good enough. It's that I think they work better in this other setting.
Oh, I get that all the time and I tell people, I say Luke Cage should have never been an Avenger. What?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? Oh, so you don't think he's good enough? No, it's not that. But that's his niche.
Yeah, yeah.
He knows. I remember there was a great issue of the Avengers where they made the Falcon an Avenger just to fulfill a quota. And the Falcon said, well, you can take that and shove it up your ass.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't fulfill anybody's quota. I got Harlem to look after. Because that was his thing. He take care of, he said, because listen, and I believe he might even said that in a comic book. He said, because listen, Daredevil and Spider-Man is going to come to Harlem and take care of these people. Somebody's got to look out after them. And so that's what I do. There is nothing wrong with knowing you have a niche and seeing a position that you can fulfill, and you do it very well.
Well, if you take all the police officers and make them FBI agents, now you got no police officers.
Yeah. And I always like the idea that, like these various superheroes had their own neighborhoods that they looked after.
Right, yeah.
And then you had the Avengers that looked after the whole planet. But, you had, Luke Cage was in Harlem, Spider-Man was, in Midtown Manhattan, Daredevil was in Hell's Kitchen, Shang-Chi was in Chinatown. I kind of like that idea that everybody had their own little territory they were looking after.
Right.
And also it made for different types of superhero stories.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Anything else we want to talk about with Sleight?
Only that if you have not seen it yet, and if you don't have HBO Max, now I realize we're in the middle of a pandemic, money is tight. I understand that, trust me. But if you have not yet subscribed to HBO Max, if you can squeeze out a couple of dollars to do so, let me just say it's worth it.
It is. I'll definitely second that. Like, a lot of times, I get it too. There are a lot of these streaming services, and I know like every Netflix is doing price increase soon. I saw, and I know people are like, oh, they're making, like, as far as I'm concerned, like what I paid, because like I said, I got 4 streaming services. I got Netflix, I got HBO Max, I got Hulu, and I got Disney Plus. But even still, the price of all those 4 combined is still less than I'd be paying for a cable package, and I get access to more content, and I can watch it anytime I want.
Exactly. Matter of fact, me and my wife were talking about, we were going to cut Netflix until she got hooked on Bridgerton.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, she got hooked on Bridgerton, so now we got to keep Netflix. But we were honestly thinking about cutting that. But then again, now because of the price increase, they're going up on their price increase. Which to me, it's insane as to why. But then again, I hear that they're losing a lot of.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know.
There's a lot of competition, and I think they'll go through these phases where they do start, because HBO Max has just so much stuff right now, and it's the new thing. So everybody's going over to there and they're going to try it out. But I think after people kind of like, get bored with it, they might switch back over to Netflix. I think things will even out.
Oh yeah, they usually do.
Yeah.
But so as I was saying, but if you can watch Sleight any other way, I don't know what else is available.
Well, it's also on Amazon. You can rent it for $4 on Amazon, probably on iTunes as well. You're pretty sure you'd be able to rent it there as well. So yeah, so you can rent it, on demand for like $4.
Oh, okay. But if you can afford the HBO Max, I would strongly advise you go that route.
I agree.
Simply because of the tremendous amount. Sleight is on there, and the tremendous amount of other content that's on there, as we've said before, especially if you're a bigger superhero fan as Perry and I are. You know what I mean. You will be more than delighted with Especially now they're talking about they're going to bring back Batman the animated series. They're going
yeah.
They're going to do a new version. Yeah.
Well, that's the rumor. I don't know if there's been any confirmation on that, but that's the rumor.
Yeah.
But yeah, they've got the whole Batman the animated series is on there. They've got Batman Beyond is on there. They got all the animated movies, and they've got they got Titans on there. They've got Doom Patrol. They've got Young Justice. The only thing they're really missing is they're missing the Batman 66 series and the animated movies they did. And they're missing the Justice League animated series, right? Justice League Unlimited. They're missing that. They're missing Batman Brave and the Bold, and they're missing what was that? Like Lois and Clark and Smallville, but those shows aren't.
I love the Brave and the Bold. That was a great series.
I was hoping it would be in there because you've been talking about this show, so I want to check it out, but it's not about there yet.
But going back to Sleight, if you any way you can see it, I would highly recommend it. It's a Black superhero origin story, one that definitely slipped under the radar. A lot of people didn't get to see it, and I'm just hoping that now a lot of people will rediscover this, and it'll become popular, and the word will spread, and maybe we'll get a sequel in some sort of way, because it's and you don't usually hear me saying, "Oh, I can't wait till the sequel." But this is one movie that, when it was over, I definitely wanted to see a sequel.
Well, and this was, and like you said, this was so under the radar. Whereas this is the first, I'm pretty sure this is the first movie we've covered on this show that I heard nothing about before you suggested we watch it.
No,
like when you said that, I'm just like, wait, what was that title again? I'd never heard of this movie before. I heard of A-Bar, but I didn't hear of this movie.
Thank you. People have heard of A-Bar. This is a movie that was made back in the 70s, and you would figure,
and never got a proper release.
They've never heard of it, but like I said, this movie, when we went to see it, it was only one showing a day. It was a matinee, like 11 o'clock in the morning, and that was the only way that we saw it. You get to see it one showing a day.
Yeah.
And it was only at the theater for like 2 weeks. And that was it.
Yeah.
So so it's a movie that deserves to be rediscovered, and I hope that you good folks out there that you will do so, and if you enjoy it, spread the word, because that's how it happened. Word of mouth is the best advertising, as far as I'm concerned.
So that does it for our coverage of Sleight, which means we're going to pick up our next movie. And so, based on what we talked about, like the list of movies we were talking about a little bit last week, I kind of want to cover, and I'm giving you veto power over this month. So if you want to nix anything, that's your option.
Most generous of you, man.
But I want to do Project Power for next week.
Oh yeah.
So this was this is a Netflix superhero movie, came out last year, starring Jamie Foxx and Joseph Gordon-Levitt. And yeah, I've seen this on Netflix. I've been really curious to check it out. So I think this is the perfect opportunity to sit down and watch it.
Yeah, listen, I heartily concur. We watched it, Patricia. Again, I didn't know anything about it, but she loved Jamie Foxx. She said, "Oh, let's watch this." And when I found out that Joseph Gordon-Levitt was in it, I said, "Oh, wow!" I said, "That's an interesting pairing that I would have never seen." Yeah, Jamie Foxx and Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I said, "Yeah, okay, well this should be good." And it was. I'm glad you picked. As a matter of fact, it gives me an excuse to watch it again.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to checking, because it's been on the net. Like every time I go on Netflix, it pops up in my recommendations, and I've always been curious to check it out. Now I've got an excuse to sit down and watch it. So, so that does it for this week. Please make sure you go to superherocinephiles.com. There's a website. You can subscribe to new episodes through any podcast provider, and wherever you listen to your podcast, Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify, whatever it is, please, take a few minutes, review the show, because it helps other people find the show. And, then go to Facebook. You can join our Facebook group, join in the discussion there. And we're also on Twitter and Instagram at Super Cinema Pod on both of those. Okay, that does it for this week.
Very well said, sir.
Thank you. And we'll see you next week when we talk about Project Power.
Okay. Good night. God bless. Don't forget to wear your mask.
As you said, what was it? Test negative, stay positive.
Oh, thank you. Hey, there you go.
Yeah.
Good night.
Night. You have been listening to the Superhero Cinephiles podcast. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at SuperCinemaPod. Join our Facebook group by searching for Superhero Cinephiles, where you can interact with us and other superhero fans. If you'd like to support the show, you can become a regular supporter at Patreon or make a one-time donation through PayPal, both of which can be found at our website, superherocinephiles.com. If you buy or rent any movies through the Amazon links at our site, it helps support the show. Please be sure to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts.